Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Learn Business English through the news. Yeah, today we're looking at an interesting opinion piece. This is called an op-ed, where people, mostly famous people, will write into the New York Times, as we shall see, and give their opinion on something. This is a current event. Of course, it's about AI at the workplace. And so let's just look at it. As we can see, the title of this is Democrats Must Not Repeat the Mistakes of Globalization. So before we look at what those mistakes are, it might be worth noting the writer of the piece. His name is Ro Khanna. This is a politician, a congressman from California's 17th district, which is where Silicon Valley is located, right? The heart of technology and AI, really. So he's coming from that perspective. And there's a lot of great vocabulary in here. This might be a little challenging at times, so let's look at it together. So the first question, as we summarize the main ideas of this article, is what were the mistakes of globalization? Well, at that time, we all imagined it would be great for everybody. As he says here, everyone will be able to get a knowledge job. Consumer goods will become cheaper. Globalization coupled with the internet will lead to prosperity for everyone. Keyword there, everyone. So as we know, of course, now, this was not the case. It says here, we are all familiar with the consequences now. Shuttered factories in rural communities that never saw the promised jobs materialize. As the American dream slipped away from them, many people developed deep and justified resentment. They saw the obscene concentration of wealth and opportunities in districts like mine, in the heart of Silicon Valley. Right? That's what he's alluding to, is this great division of wealth. By the way, this word resentment is an English word that I like. I don't think it translates too well to German, but we say it a lot. It's when you just can't stop thinking about something that makes you angry. It's just you resent it. Okay, and so those are the problems of globalization, right? And so he doesn't want to repeat these mistakes. He's looking at this from a political perspective. So he's now comparing that to the AI revolution. Let's continue. Like globalization, AI will undoubtedly bring benefits, tremendous benefits, to our economy with higher productivity, personalized medicine and education, and more efficient energy use. Generative AI has the potential to help those with fewer resources or experience quickly learn and develop new skills, right? So similar to globalization, there's a potential that everyone benefits, right? But maybe the more skeptical of you are thinking, only the business owners will benefit. They will see the profits. So now this writer of the article, Ro Khanna, is going to talk about how he thinks the government should respond this time. So let's look. There's some great passages here. Today, the Democratic Party is at a crossroads, as it was in the 1990s, when the dominant wing in the party argued for prioritizing private sector growth and letting the chips fall where they may. When it comes to AI, the fault lines for the Democratic Party similarly run between business and labor, between donors and grassroots activists, and between those concerned foremost with our global competitiveness and those concerned with the economic well-being of the working class. So let's look at this top paragraph when it talks about letting the chips fall where they may. This is a nice idiom. I don't know if you've heard it before. The meaning of it is that you allow events to happen without changing them. Fun fact, it comes from the 1800s, actually, and it's talking about woodcutters. And apparently, as they're hacking the wood, the chips would scatter. And that's the idea, is you don't just let them fall. Who cares? Focus at the more important work. Who cares about the chips? Let the chips fall where they may. So that was the previous approach the Democratic Party had to globalization. Just let it happen. Don't regulate it. Let it happen. And then that second paragraph where it talks about the fault lines, right? It's talking about an earthquake. So these areas where the Democratic Party doesn't agree, these specific points. Yeah, of course, it's between the business interests and the labor interests. Makes a lot of sense, right? He also talked about donors and grassroots activists. Grassroots is a great word you'll hear in political context all the time. Grassroots just means at like the local level, not at this high federal level, but at the roots of the grass, right? Maybe it explains itself. So yeah, these are the issues he sees, right? These are the competing interests that the government has to try and work with to boost both the business sector and also the working class. It's always been a challenge. So in regards to this new governmental approach to the regulation, a potential regulation of AI, he gives two examples, recent examples. There was this recent bill in California. A bill is a proposed law that is voted upon. And so the proposed law was to require that a human driver be on self-driving trucks. As we shall see in the article, next paragraph, tech companies argue that replacing human drivers with AI is feasible, will reduce labor costs, and will therefore make it cheaper to transport goods and services. Right, sounds really great. But as this Congressman Ro Khanna points out, we don't trust planes to fly without pilots, even with the most sophisticated autopilot systems. So despite a lot of lobbying from the tech companies, the bill passed, so it is required that a human driver has to be on self-driving trucks. And again, the point is the government here is regulating. They are not letting the chips fall where they may. Another interesting recent example was AI in the Hollywood strike. As we shall see here, it says, writers were intrigued by the way AI could help as a research tool and unlock new potential for movies and TV, but were concerned that studios might rush to use AI to write cookie-cutter scripts and sacrifice imagination and creativity on the altar of profits. Cookie cutter is a great word, I think. Cookie cutter is what you cut cookies with, right? And the point is they all look the same. So you often hear like, oh, all the houses are they're cookie cutter houses. They live in a cookie cutter neighborhood, meaning everything looks the same. Okay, so that was the other issue, right, of AI recently. And so now we get to the most challenging paragraph of the day. Let's look at this and take it apart here. It says, even though writers' jobs are very different from truck drivers' jobs, labor solidarity is one of the few countervailing forces that can blunt the dehumanization of work motivated by short-term profit maximization in a world where AI is capable of suddenly disrupting both blue and white-collar work. All right, that's a lot. Labor solidarity is one of the few countervailing forces, right? It's just an easier way of saying that opposite forces or a way to balance something out, right? So the fact that everyone is sticking together, that has to work, that is the only thing that can even slow down this idea of let's use AI, right? It's cheaper, right? Why wouldn't a business owner want to use AI, right? Computers don't need holidays. They don't need pay vacations. They can work 24/7. They don't need pay raises, right? You can maximize profits greatly. So why wouldn't you want to use that? And then this last little section, AI is capable of suddenly disrupting both blue and white collar work. Collar, by the way, I don't have it, but this is a collar, right? And so white collar work is like financial fancy office jobs, typically high earning jobs. They call it white collar because a lot of those people have white button up shirts with white collars. And blue collar jobs means work, industry, physical labor. All right, so finishing out this article, the writer gives his opinions, and this is the most interesting opinion I thought. Let's look at it. They, meaning the workers, should also share in company profits, whether they are working for a trunking company, a production studio, or a car manufacturer. Like many chief executives, workers should receive compensation based on profits and the company's performance, not solely hours worked. It's the only way workers can fully thrive as AI increases America's productive capacity. So to me, that's a rather radical idea, right? That you're going to have every regular workers sharing with the profits, not just the CEO. So finishing up, one of the final arguments he makes, even so, federal policy should require public companies to have active worker participation when making decisions on how AI will change jobs that have functions that might be automated, and provide tax incentives to companies that give workers a direct stake in their profits. Right, so here we are once again seeing what he thinks the government should do or is capable of doing, right? That they should make incentives for companies to include worker participations in AI decisions. And then I like this last paragraph for vocabulary. He says, we should encourage disruptive innovation at our universities, startups, and even large companies, but prioritize the perspective and earnings of workers and the adoption of any such technology that develops. So again, this is the balancing act, right? Disruptive innovation, you hear this in startup circles all the time, like we got to disrupt the industry, right? And that's a great way to get the great new product, increase profits by 10x, right? So he doesn't want to lose that. Of course, he comes from Silicon Valley. That's what they do, the disruptive innovation. So he doesn't want to discourage that. He still wants to encourage that, but at the same time, prioritize the perspective of all workers. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, what do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. Do you think this is just more pie in the sky idealism, hoping that everyone will benefit when still just the 1% will benefit? And also, if you're interested, I'm going to link another YouTube video where this person is interviewed. It's another great way to practice your business English. So hope you enjoyed it. As always, like and subscribe and share.